Welcome into WarUp on a WPIAL. Greg Warnock, Jeff Upson with you here, recapping the Southwest AA Regional Tournament, the AAA WPIAL Tournament, and getting you set for the state tournament. Jeff, this is one of our usually our longer shows coming up, just previewing the state tournament. Just exciting time coming up here, and a lot of different topics coming up with the brackets coming out. And we're going to have some fun today. So a little bit of a different way we're going to approach it as opposed to other shows where we start at 106, work our way up, do one class, then the other. We're going to have some fun. We're going to do AA and AAA at the same time. So essentially, first weight class we do, so it's 106. We'll do 106 AA, 106 AAA, and go that way. But it's going to be all out of order. So you guys are going to have to listen in the whole show because I got my daughter picked out. We wrote down the 13 numbers. She actually cut them all out. She put them into a hat and she picked them all out for us for today. So she picked out the order for us. Jeff, are you ready?
I don't know if I am ready because the order is like way out of whack, and I'm used to just starting with the little guys, ending with the big guys. We did a 2-hour and 15-minute show last night, and I probably did a disservice to like the 189, 215, and 285 because we're like, boy, this is bad. We gotta speed this up. So I like this idea because we kind of split it up a little bit and we talk about each weight, but we're gonna keep you on your toes because you're not gonna know which weight is coming up next.
That's right. Before we get into those weights, one topic, just want to hit this right off the bat, Jeff, because I'm sure we'll be talking about it when going over the state brackets. And it's a topic we talk about every year. Just, is there a way to seed the state tournament? They did, after the year that Pletcher and Sasso wrestled in the quarterfinals, that brought along the idea of seeding the 4 region champs, which I thought was huge strides from where they were years ago. I think the one thing that's missing out of it is the fact that they don't look at previous years, where you have guys like a Ryan Crookham or like a Max Stout who missed the entire postseason, don't have prestige points from a year prior, but one's a state champ, one's a state runner-up, and they're not seated at the top or near the top because of that fact, because all they go by is their record. That's the only thing I think they could add. I mean, a lot of people say, how can they not seed this tournament? How can they not do this? How are you going to do it?
I mean, can you imagine the seeding meeting for that? I mean, it would be, I would have to bring my bulletproof vest. I mean, it would be daunting. It would be tough. But I think there's ways in which we can improve upon the current system, right? And you mentioned it. Previous years, it shouldn't just be the last year. There should be some type of formula for if you were a state champion, state medalist 2 years prior, or a regional qualifier, regional 4th place finisher 2 years prior. Maybe you missed a year with injury. So that obviously plays into Ryan Crookham and Max Stout big time. One was a state champion, 2-time state champion. One was a state runner-up. But there's got to be a better way. I'm not saying there's a perfect way because I don't think you're ever going to please everybody, but I don't think seeding literally all 20 wrestlers in each bracket is possible or feasible. I can't see that. That's probably never going to happen. I can tell you that right now for a variety of reasons, but there are things we can do to improve. I would even look into things like other states, because we have quite a few wrestlers that were state medalists in other states that come in, and maybe they should account for some points for that as well. So there's ways we can improve it, but we're gonna have to talk about this a lot more after the season because we just simply don't have the time to spend 2 hours talking about the issues. This ain't nothing gonna change between now and Thursday, so let's focus on what we got, and then we can go from there, right? So there are issues, but that's life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And another topic we want to bring up later on, not today, but in a later show, is the qualification for the next 2 years, where the WPIAL could be losing a AAA qualifier and going down to 3 qualifiers. Just quick thought is that it's shocking to me that the bracket goes from 16 to 20, and yet they're still going to lose a qualifier. But it is what it is, and we're going to talk a lot about that, in a different show. It's just and that's a topic that could be an hour in and of itself. The different ways that it could happen. But let's go ahead and look at the wrestling action from this past weekend and get you set for what's going to be an exciting time up in Hershey this week. And you look at The order that we have, the first weight class, Jeff, 285 pounds. The big guys get the center stage as the first weight picked from my daughter, and that is in Double A for the WPIAL. Cam Carter Green of Washington and Joe Baronic of Burgestown both qualifying. Carter Green in third place, Baronic in sixth. Matt Watkins of Tussey Mountain was your champion.
So Cam Carter, we saw what happened in the WPIAL tournament. He lost to Baranic. Cam Carter came back really strong. He had a close match. Well, he had two close matches. One with Brady Ewing from Tyrone, who I really like. He was a second out of District 6. But then he had Matt Watkins from Tussey Mountain, a guy who he's wrestled before. And we knew that was going to be a close match. It was a 3-2 win. Matt Watkins ends up winning it. Again, he won 3-2 in the finals there. But Cam Carter, he had a great tournament. He beat Brady Ewing twice. He beat him for the third and fourth place match. Ewing beat Baranic, so they didn't get a rematch from the District 7 tournament. But clearly, Cam Carter rebounded here, to get into Hershey for the first time. He made it to Hershey, and but boy, when we look at the bracket and his draw, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it definitely is for Carter Green, as he's going to have Emmanuel Ulrich of Mifflinburg to start things off, and if he wins, he's got Riley Robel of Bishop McDevitt.
Yeah, so Riley's number one. He's been number one in the state all year. He's a returning state runner-up last year at heavyweight. Lost to Nathan Taylor, who he actually later beat in the summer. So Riley felt pretty good and feels pretty good. He's gonna be a lot of problems for all the heavyweights in this bracket. But that first match with Cam Carter Green versus Emmanuel Ulrich, that I have circled, starred, and highlighted, because those are two guys that are they were top 10 in the state basically all year. Ulrich had some ups and downs, but he beat Austin Johnson in the District 4 tournament, the super freshman from Muncie. Lost to him in the regional tournament. So that's why you see Ulrich on the top half. Austin Johnson is on the bottom half. He's from Muncie, and I like his draw for him. I think he has a good chance to make it out to the semifinals. But it's Cam Carter, tough draw there, because he's if he would get past Ulrich, he's going to run into Robel. Baranic, on the other hand, I like his draw with Shepard. I think he wins that match against Charles Shepard from Hamburg. And I think he's in a winnable match with Xavier Rada, too, from Corey area, who's not bad, but like some of the other guys in his bracket, had some ups and downs this year.
Yeah, and I also think, for Baronic, he fell apart a little bit, right, in a Double-A Southwest region, where he lost that semifinal match to Singleton, then drops down, loses to Ewing. Like you said, though, very tough opponent, and then also lost to Lingenfelter. I think maybe it's just the sting of losing that match after coming off such a high from the Double-A WPIAL championship. But I think he can, like you said, rebound nice, and he's in a good position where he could get to the quarterfinals and maybe get a rematch with Singleton, a guy he lost 7-2 in the semifinals. So definitely in a nice spot. And as far as the WPIAL and these two guys, do you feel like there's a state medal here that can be won?
Oh, yeah. I mean, no doubt. I think Cam Carter is certainly in the hunt for a medal. It just, he's going to have to do a lot of wrestling on the backside because I don't see him getting past that quadrant. Whether he loses to Ulrich or Robel, I just don't see him getting through from there. So depending on where he drops down in the bracket, he's going to have – I mean, it's a state tournament. I mean, and heavyweight, there's good guys everywhere. Austin Johnson, Leo Mazuka, Fitzenmeyer from Saucon Valley, Matt Watkins also down there on the bottom half. So I don't know necessarily where he will fall, but I think he's going to have to win a few on the backside in order to make any chance of making it to the medal stand. Baranic, if he wrestles like he did in the WPIAL tournament, I think he has a shot, but if he wrestles like he did in the Southwest Regional, where he just went on a 3-match losing streak, that's not going to cut it, right? So, but we'll see. Cam Carter, I think he's been the steady horse kind of all year for the Southwest region. Him and Matt Watkins from Tussey. So I would like to see him potentially sneak through.
On the AAA side, Billy McChesney of Greensburg Salem, your WPIAL champion. He defeats Noah Tustin of Waynesburg 3-2. Stone Joseph of Kiski area had a great tournament, finishing in third. Jake Palmacata of Butler finishing in fourth. Couple of thoughts here, Jeff, on this bracket. First of all, Stone Joseph, one heck of a tournament. Thought he wrestled lights out. Beats Joey Schneck. Almost beats Billy McChesney. Had him on his back. And not able to, get any back points off of it, but big takedown, had him on his back. I had him on the ropes. The disappointment, I guess you could say, is Ty Banco of Trinity. We thought we'd see a Banco-Tussin rematch. He loses to Palmacata and then ends up losing to Stone Joseph. And Joseph ends up getting the win over Palmacata as well. Just overall, Palmacata had a good tournament. Banco, a little bit of disappointment. Stone Joseph looked great.
Stone Joseph looked phenomenal. I think he needed that sectional championship to kind of let him know, like, hey, I'm still capable. I'm still able. He's had such an up and down career, and we talked about it on our last show. And I selfishly, I was pulling for him a little bit. He had a tough win against Schmeck, and as you said, I kind of took it for granted that him and Billy McChesney wasn't going to be close, and he pushed McChesney. He really did. It was just a different Stone Joseph that we've seen. I don't know if I've seen that version of Stone Joseph since his sophomore year. And, man, he picked a good weekend to break out and have that performance because, like you said, I was totally expecting Ty Banco, Noah Tussin semifinal. Loser there finishes in third. No doubt. If you would have told me it was going to be any different, I would say, that's a little skeptical. But Banco falls in the quarterfinals and then again falls to Stone Joseph, where I'm just, like you said, you have guys that are hot at the right time and guys that are just, they take some bumps, they take that one loss, and all of a sudden, the wheels kind of fall off there. But McChesney, I will say, he's remained undefeated. He's looked really good. He's been tested. He was tested this past weekend against Joseph and against Tustin. So I think he's really ready for the state tournament. He's coming in undefeated, but I think his trip to Hershey last year really taught him a lot about what to expect there. So I'm excited to see where Billy McChesney ends up in Hershey.
One final thought with Ty Banco and Jake Palmacata in that match, which I thought was one of probably the bigger upsets in the quarterfinals, was Palmacata winning that match. Palmacata just he was on Banco was outcoached in that match because Palmacata came in, knew exactly what Banco was going to do. He's going to go upper body. That's all he does. Upper body goes for the toss every single time, whether, it's around the body with a bear hug or a headlock. And if he doesn't get that, he's not getting points. And Palmacata knew it. He waited for his time and, got the one score when he needed it and won the match. So, that's one thing, for Ty Banco, you take away from, you got to open up your offense a little bit to get more than just the one move if you want to get to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, being one-dimensional like that does hurt, and everyone knows what he does. So you're right, that definitely probably, if you can scout him and you can execute, because just because it's coming doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be able to stop it, right? But I would say Banco he's got to learn from that, and I'm excited to see where the WPIAL guys end up in Hershey.
Yeah, Billy McChesney on the opposite half of Sean Kinney of Nazareth. McChesney drawing the 2 seed of the 5 region champs. Noah Tustin's on the top half with Kinney, so a win for Tustin in the opening round will likely face Sean Kinney of Nazareth. How do you see everything else shaking out here, Jeff?
Yeah, the WPIAL didn't get any favors on their draws because Noah Tustin draws Redder from Quakertown, who really I thought was going to beat LaVenture, who's the 3rd seed on the bottom half from Upper Darby, but he did not. Redder has a win this year over Matt Cruz, who's also on the bottom half. So Tustin and Redder should be a good, hard match, and if he should win that, he's going to get Sean Kinney, who I don't see anyone beating here this weekend. Stone Joseph gets Charlie Cruz from Williamsport, a guy who I really like. He's really come on strong after taking going out to Fargo and coming away with as an All-American. He's really looked good this year as a senior. I think Joseph is going to have to wrestle just as good, if not better, than he did this past weekend in order to come out on top of Cruz. But I do like the winner there between Joseph and Cruz to get out to the semifinals. So, Joseph, if he's in, a good headspace, I think he can certainly push Cruz. But Cruz has really shown some strides this year. But I do like the winner of that going to the semifinals.
And then on the bottom half, you got Billy McChesney, Jake Palmacata feeding into Julian LaVenture. How do you like McChesney's chances here of getting to the state final, and can he hang with Kinney?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's going to be a lot of bumps before he would see a potential match with Kinney. But I do like his chances. I think he'll probably see Oliver Bellotti from Clearfield in the quarterfinals, which that's two guys that have medals from Hershey previously. McChesney does have a win over him a few years ago, or last year actually. So, I expect him to come out to the semifinals, and who he gets, I'm leaning towards Matt Cruz. LaVenture has been good, but hasn't quite had the competition that some of the other guys have. Lane Schmick from Carlisle had a really bad regional tournament. He was a guy who was top 5 in the state all year, so I could see him and Matt Cruz as the best first round matchup in my opinion. So I would definitely keep an eye on that one, because likely the winner there could end up into the semifinals with McChesney. McChesney is he's got nothing to lose, and I think he's got a good mindset. He's always happy. He's got a good head on his shoulders. But Sean Kinney's wrestling a little bit different right now, man. Let's not forget he was maybe an inch and a half away from winning a state title last year, pinning Nate Schoen in the finals. Sean Kinney's just on a different level. I don't see anyone beating him. That's including McChesney.
Next weight class to talk about is 160 pounds for the WPIAL. They were able to get 4 of the 6 qualifiers, and the 7th and 8th place guys as well. Grant McKay of Laurel wins the title. He had a couple of tough matches, though, Jeff. He had a 5-2 win over Luke Moore of Chestnut Ridge in the semis, followed by a 1-0 win over Zeke Dubler of Glendale in the final. Good tournament for Christian Heinrich. He ends up finishing in 4th place in the tournament, including a win in the quarters over Ethan Heminger of Somerset. Damian Barr of Borough in 5th. Braden Welsh of Fort Cherry in 6th. Another week where Braden Welsh has to injury default in his couple of matches. And it's only fitting, he and DJ Slovic wrestling for a chance to earn a medal, and that ends once again in DQ by Slovic. Obviously, we weren't there, so can't tell you what happened. I'm sure many of folks listening in could, but Welsh advances on with the 6th place finish. So overall, WPIAL, very strong tournament. Trevor Pettit in 7th, Slovic in 8th.
Yeah, I mean, 6 of the 8 here. We knew that 60 was a loaded weight class for the WPIAL, but to see it all come to fruition and to see all these guys like Christian Hirak from Derry, like where did he come from? I remember, I'm pretty sure it's the same guy that I remember as a youth. He wrestled in the youth ranks, but he's a senior, and I don't see any results for him prior to his senior year. And he had a phenomenal tournament. He beat the crap out of Ethan Heminger from Somerset, who's not a bad wrestler. Tech followed him 17-0, made him look silly. Duber then beats him up, which that's not surprising. And then Grant McKay, he definitely had a little bit closer than he wanted to. He's not, and we'll talk about it when we go to 72 as well with Rune. But Grant McKay definitely was pushed and tested, and that was the thing I was most disappointed about him at Powerade, not wrestling at Powerade after the first day, is having him be seen against some of those high level guys. I really wanted to see him and Holden Garcia wrestle, but now we're seeing okay, returning state champ, but you're only winning 1-0. Okay, there's something we can do to help get past him potentially. So I think the WPIAL had a phenomenal tournament. Welsh, as you mentioned, as a freshman, just really had a good season overall, and it's not over yet. So I'm really excited to see where some of these guys go in the WPIAL or in the state tournament. But it's not going to be easy. Looking at the brackets, it's certainly not going to be easy, Greg.
Nothing is at the state tournament, that's for sure. But Grant McKay is at the top. Holden Garcia of Notre Dame GP is on the bottom. Tell me about this bracket, Jeff. How do you see it breaking down?
Yeah, well, Grant McKay definitely benefited from the prestige points because he's on a top half it's not that impressive. I will say Ty Nixon, Gannon Smith, I like them. Gannon Smith lost to Holden Garcia in the finals of the Southeast Regional. He's been really good this year. He's been had some big wins, including Michael Dugan. But I think Grant McKay is I don't see much of an issue for him getting to the finals. Maybe that's just estimating his abilities, but I really don't see anyone on the top half giving him too much of an issue. Not saying he's not going to have some close matches like he did in the regional, but I don't see anyone beating him to get to the finals. On the bottom half, a different story. You have Zeke Dubler, you have Robbie Schneider from Lackawanna Trail, who I really like. I think he's had a great season as a junior. Lackawanna Trail overall has had a good season. I got to see them at the team tournament, was really impressed by them. But on the bottom, you have Holden Garcia, Luke Moore. Holden Garcia has just been really consistent for Notre Dame GP, really good from December on. I really was impressed with how he was at the team tournament, battling back and forth with some guys the same week over and over again. So Holden Garcia is the guy who I think is going to punch out through the bottom and get to the finals, and I think him and McKay is going to be one hell of a match.
Any other WPIAL guys think can come back with a medal?
Well, I think Hurak has a good chance in his first round against returning state medalist Alan Alexander for Pope John. If he wrestles like he did in the Southwest Regional, I wouldn't be surprised to see him win that and then push Aiden Zimmerman from Johnsonburg in the quarter or in the first round. So I like his draw there. Welsh has a tough match with Anthony Glessner from Bish McDevitt, who I really like. And if he would win that, he would get Schneider. So I think that's a tougher draw for him on the bottom side. And Damian Barr, if he beats Brian Green, he gets Holden Garcia. So not a good draw there, but yeah, I'm keep an eye on Hurak, man, because he wrestled really well last week.
160 in AAA, Jared Kessler of Connellsville wins a WPIAL title. Sean Taylor of West Allegheny in second. Chase Kranitz of Norwood in third. Enzo Morlacchi of Kiski in fourth. Don't think there's much surprise in the top four. The question was, could a guy like a Bodie Morgan, fresh off a section title, sneak his way in? I didn't love that Kranitz was on the top half with Kessler because I thought those were two of probably the better guys. I definitely thought Kranitz was a stronger wrestler over Morlacchi, but the fact that he came up rather from 52 to 60, I think made it tough for the committee to put him into that bracket. With that said, though, not much argument as far as this top four. I mean, these four are legit.
Yeah, and it starts with Jared Kessler. He's wrestling lights out right now, and there's just some guys that you can feel it coming, that they're bound for a breakout. They're bound just to pummel guys and just win without leaving any doubt. And Jared Kessler has been one of those wrestlers in the last few weeks. And I got to talk to him afterwards, and he had a little bit of a abscess on his knee. He had to get taken out and drained, and there was a little bit of an issue there with trying to train and get healthy. But let's not forget, Jared Kessler has finished fourth at the state tournament twice before. I feel like he has just been around forever. And it's also hard to believe this is his first WPIAL title this year, and he did it in really convincing fashion. Sean Taylor is a guy who I think is going to finish on the podium in Hershey, and he beat him 9-2 and just looked really solid. You're going to hear it here first, Greg. Actually, you probably heard it last night. Jared Kessler's winning a state title. I don't see anyone stopping him the way he's been wrestling. Unless something happens crazy between now and Thursday, I just can't see anyone beating him. So I really was impressed with Kessler. But overall, the depth here at 160 for the WPIAL was just insane. I mean, 5 of these guys, four of them have been ranked top 10 in the state all year, but 5 of these guys all ranked top 25. It's just a lot of depth here. So you're going to see some of these guys with some draws where you're like, how the hell did he get that draw? But, when you finish fourth in a region, even though you're returning state medalist, that's the way it is.
Yeah, this weight class is interesting in the state because I feel like it's a deep weight in the fact that there's a lot of guys who are probably close to the same skill-wise, and we're going to see how it all shakes out, 2 through 8. I do agree, though. Kessler, you look at his results from the previous years, look at the guys who were in his bracket.
Yeah.
And that tells you why he was fourth in a couple of years. And if you were to go back to his freshman year, not even his freshman year, really his 8th grade year, right, when he wrestled at the Surge, everyone's like, who is this guy? Who is this guy, right? So the same thing about Kessler, it was Rocco Welsh. And all of a sudden now you're seeing why. I mean, these guys are just studs that came up through, and they just had solid guys, and that's why they don't have state titles, with Kessler and Welsh. So I agree with you. I think Kessler is just wrestling phenomenal, and I expect the same. But as far as 2 through 8 goes, I mean, you got I think Kranitz, I think Sean Taylor, even more Morlocki if he puts it together for a tournament. All these guys could come home with state medals, but it is a deep weight because there's a lot of good guys here, similar to where they are as far as skill wise.
Yeah, I like the depth here for the WPIAL, and I think the WPIAL has a very good chance to do well here. I would not be surprised in at all to see Jared Kessler and Enzo Merlacci in the semifinals. Just I'll just call it right now. I do feel like Enzo has a really good shot. Macon Myers is very good, but if and the thing about Merlacki is he's wrestling different this year because he doesn't have any pressure on him. Kyle Everly is good, but I've seen him struggle a little bit this year. Merlacki, on the other hand, I've just seen him really excel and do well without much pressure. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him come out of that quadrant down there. Look, Jared Kessler is going to be having Matt Colagesi in the quarterfinals. That's a 1 versus 2. Well, it was last week. The updated rankings show Kessler as 1 and Colagesi as 3. But still, you're talking about a top 3 matchup in the quarterfinals because Colagesi was upset in the regional tournament. So now you have an early round matchup between two guys that are just highly ranked, both Division I recruits, both returning state medalists, both were 4th last year. So the top half, very stacked. I like Ryan Fairchild. I like Jack Lato as well from Lower Marion. But if Enzo shows up to wrestle, and I think he will, I wouldn't be surprised to see him end up in the semifinals. And I'll say the same for Sean Taylor. I'm a huge Sean Taylor fan. I think he's just come a long way in the last 16 months. And I expect him to come out to the quarterfinals and potentially upset a guy like Ryan Garvik from Central Dauphin. Not saying it's actually an upset because I think they're pretty evenly matched. Garvik has a loss to Everly, but Garvik is also wrestling just a different way than he was back in December. So Sean Taylor really has a good chance to make it out to the semifinals. Chase Kranitz is the one who probably has the toughest draw because he's going to get Chase Barlow should he win his first match. Chase Barlow is the guy who beat Matt Colagesi in the Southeast Regional. And if you remember last year, Chase Barlow wrestled Rocco Welsh in the state tournament, and it was a 2-1 match. I can remember that because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, is Rocco Welsh going to get upset by Chase Barlow? Chase Barlow's tough. Strathaven doesn't get a whole ton of notoriety or certainly ink, but Chase Barlow is certainly good. Landon Muth from Becca is really good. Roman Maroney from Williamsport is tough. So I think Chase Kranitz has his hands full in the bottom half, especially coming up a weight and maybe not being 100%.
Next weight class to cover, 189 pounds for the WPIAL. They go 1, 2, and 3 in this weight in AA, and also a 6th place finish. So 4 guys advancing here as well. Patrick Cutchumber, a winner and a champion. Noah Ganivas of Mount Pleasant finishing in 2nd. How about the tournament for Brennan Morgan of Central Valley? We mentioned 2 weeks ago he was battling an illness, so he ended up injury defaulting a couple of matches, but he finishes in 3rd place from Central Valley, and Cole Clark of Burrell finishing in 6th. But a great tournament here for the WPIAL as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, just like we talked about with Kessler and McKay, Cutchumber has been that steady guy all year, right? I mean, 2 majors, a fall, and then a 6-0 win in the finals there. Cutchumber's just, he's on a different level, right? And, this is one of the brackets where I'm looking at like, oh my gosh, like 89 in AAA sucks because we got Mac Stout and Sonny Sasso, but we also have Cutchumber and Karpinski also on the same side because Cutchumber, he was a state medalist 2 years ago, not last year. So Cutchumber had a great tournament. Ganibas also, rebounds from that loss to Cole Clark, and obviously with a shortened season this year, wasn't able to get a ton of matches under him. But I thought he had a nice win over Noah Foltz from Baldigo area, who's had a good season. That was a tough 3-1 win for him. So, like you said, overall the WPIAL did really well. Cole Clark snuck through at the 6th spot, and Brendan Morgan, as you mentioned, comes back for 3rd, where we weren't sure what version of Brendan Morgan we were going to see, right? And it turned out he's okay because he loses a Kubat, but then bounces back and comes out and gets 3rd, beats Noah Foltz, who beat Kubat. So, yeah, I was impressed with Brendan Morgan, and really I think he's a wild card here in the state bracket.
So you look at the placement, you mentioned Kutchember and Karpinski, both at the top. So obviously you're looking at probably a star-studded semifinal here, right?
Yeah, I am. I mean, they've been 1-2 in the state all season. They've been 1-2 literally from this first edition to now, and unfortunately, we're going to see that probably in the semifinals.
Other guys from the WPIAL that you like? Do you see anyone else getting to the podium?
Well, I mean, you look at Brendan Morgan's draw. I think he's got a tough one with Seth Stewart, but I think that's a winnable match. Jacob Scheib from Tri-Valley is also on that side. He's been really good. Has a few blemishes on his season. He got pinned by Tucker Teets from Sealands Grove, which was a little surprising. But he's been there. He's already a junior, but I feel like he's been around for a while. So should he win that, I think he'll have a tough one with Scheib, who I do believe is probably going to come out from that bottom half. Ganibus has a good matchup with Jackson Zimmerman. That's a winnable match for him. Isaac Corey is a guy who's coming up from 72 to 89. He was a Northeast regional champion. He's on the bottom half. I think, depending on how the chips fall, when you have the two best guys, in my opinion, the two clear top guys on the top half, you could argue Scheib is a number 3 and Corey maybe a 4, but overall that bottom half's a little bit more wide open. So, Brendan Morgan gets hot, he may end up in the semifinals. But it's all about coming back through, and if you lose and coming back on the backside. And I think some of these guys like Brendan Morgan certainly can. They can certainly find their way into the top 8.
AAA on the other side, Max Stout dominates action with falls and a tech fall in the finals over Brody Evans of Waynesburg. To finish in second was Evans. Gabe Stafford, of Cannon McMillan in third. Juliana Marion of Franklin Regional in fourth. Gabe Stafford had the cradle locked and loaded this past weekend, pinning guys right and left, getting them on their backs. Great tournament for Stafford. Finally starting to see a guy who's probably still not 100%, but he's getting closer and he's getting hot at the right time.
Well, and he's also undersized too, right? I mean, he's wrestled 72 this year, so he's not a huge 89-pounder. I mean, he's jacked, and there's a reason he can wrap up that cradle easily, because he's got some guns on him. But that first match, that quarterfinal match with Stafford and Marion, that was a dogfight, 10-8. Marion ends up winning that, but Stafford was really, really close. And after that, I'm thinking, Brody Evans and Marion's going to be a tight one, and Evans ends up winning that. Look, Max Stout just. We're not going to talk about him because there's nothing to talk about. He just dominated. It was just another day at the office for a Stout brother, right? I mean, he just completely dominated, and we take it for granted, right? It goes back to the 5 years ago when we had guys like Vincenzo, Jason Nolf, Michael Kemmer, Spencer Lee, all those guys that were just manhandling people. Max Stout, he's in that category of just going through and dominating. On the bottom half, or the backside, though, Stafford, like you said, really looked good. He came on at the right time, and I'm excited to see where he's at in Hershey, because he's got some more time to prepare to get healthy, and it's going to be fun.
Well, we're going to get the Stout-Sasso matchup in the semifinals, Jeff. Who do you like in that one?
Yeah, I mean, oh gosh, you put me right on the spot. You don't even let me complain about the fact that they're on the same side. Yeah.
Oh, we already did that at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, I did a little bit, but I'm gonna go with Stout, but my confidence level is pretty low on it. Sonny Sasso is a freak of nature. He does things that many people can't. He's a Sasso, and but Max Stout's a Stout, right? So it's right. Nice because there's some lineage here between these two, and
both.
And I don't know. I feel like Max Stout, having been there before as a sophomore, losing all of last year, Sonny is certainly still, I think, adjusting to wrestling up at a 189. He's huge. He's tall. He's a big. He looks like a monster out there. But I just feel like Stout is a little bit more. If he can get clean finishes, if he can finish cleanly on Sasso, he wins. If he starts getting tangled up in the web that is Sonny Sasso, that's when we're going to have trouble. Go back and watch Max Stout and Lenny Pinto, and you'll see exactly why that's dangerous. Stout got pinned by him. he has to be clean. He's got to finish clean. He's got to finish crisp. He's got to just leave no doubt, leave no room for Sasso to do the things that Sasso does. But so I'll say Stout, but again, it ain't a confident pick.
Brody Evans, Gabe Stafford, Juliano Marion. You think any of those guys have a shot at a medal?
Yeah, I certainly think they both have shots at medal. Stafford's got a good draw in the first round, but then he gets Johnny Miller, who I really like from Exeter. But I do believe that he'll wrestle his way back, and I think if he's locking up cradles on guys, I certainly think he's going to be in the mix for a medal, no doubt. Because 189 is a weird weight. Quinn Collins from Central Bucks East is clearly the third best here in this weight, but after that, it gets a little bit, I would say a lot bit more wide open. Aiden Height from Chambersburg, I like him. Trey Shoemaker from Mifflin County as well. Johnny Miller is, I think, clearly the fourth one here. But you have some other guys like Wayne McIntyre from East Strasburg North, who's making his first, actually the first ever from East Strasburg North to the state tournament. I like that match with Brody Evans, though. Brody Evans is battle-tested. You wrestle a Waynesburg schedule and you only have 10 losses, you're doing something right. So I like Brody Evans' chances to win that match, but I don't see him getting past Quinn Collins. So again, like we talked about before with the wrestlebacks, these guys get hot at the right time, like Stafford did last weekend. I think both he and Evans can end up on the medal stand.
We're going to go down now to 138 pounds in AA. The WPIAL, once again, another strong showing in this one as they advance 4 of 6 here as well. Ambrose Bonai of Central Valley, your second place finisher. Jameson Pocliembo of Mount Pleasant in third. Rudy Brown of Burgestown, a solid tournament. He's in fourth. And Andrew Johnson of Southmoreland in fifth place. So WPIAL, once again, solid here.
Yeah, I mean, they were really solid, and I really look at Ambrose Bonnie and say, man, like, we had him on the show, and he's just loose, man. He just has fun. He doesn't really seem like he puts a lot of pressure on himself, and he really looked good. He had a tough match with Jeff Pfeiffer from Baltimore area, but outside of that, he dominated. Fall in the major decision, and then loses to Toth 3-1, which isn't a bad loss at all. So for Bonai to be where he's at, I'm really impressed with him. Pocliembo, on the other hand, man, he's had some ups and downs this year. Look at his results in the back half. He had Cornetto wins 1-0, close match. Snowberger from North Star beats him in sudden victory 7-2, very close match. Then he beats Wyant 11-3, and then has a sudden victory match with Rudy Brown. So Pocliembo has been playing it close to the chest, but it's worked out for him, right? I mean, outside of that match with Toth, which you lost 5-1, he was really good, on fire kind of throughout the wrestleback. So he's a guy who's been, he's been in the mix before. So overall, the WPIAL, though, I was really impressed how they finished out here, despite not having a champion.
In the state tournament, there's a couple of studs here, Jeff. Ryan Crookham obviously sticks out the most on the bottom half of the bracket. Connor Pierce of Harbor Creek sitting out there at the top half of the bracket. So you got a few studs here, right? You got Connor Saylor of Hickory, Easton Toth, as you mentioned, from Forest Hills, having a solid tournament, the Southwest region. So you got some studs, but then I think the door's open after you get kind of through those 4 guys as far as where the rest fit in.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the WPIAL to get a medal here. You got Connor Pierce and Ryan Crookham, clearly 1 and 2. Anthony Avensky from Wyoming area, younger brother of a state champion. He's really tough, and that Northeast region was just stacked. Cameron Melheim from Warrior Run. He's a freshman, won a loaded bracket. I really like him. I think he ends up getting to the semifinals with Connor Pierce. 2 freshmen there with Milheim and also Avensky. Those are 2 guys that are just locked in and really good. And then you got Cade Wernzenberger from Meadowbrook Christian, and he's been lights out this year. I think he makes it out to the semifinals. I think he sees Toth in the quarters, and I think he ends up getting a win there. So how many is that right off the bat? That's 4,
That's
5,
3.
6.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if there's any other room. And then let's throw in Cole Bisco, a guy who was a state runner-up a few years back. I don't know. I don't see if there's much breathing room for for the WPIAL to get through here. I think this is one of the tougher weights just because there's so much top-end talent. Connor Pierce, Ryan Crookham, and then you throw in the two freshmen. Then you throw in guys like Cade Wardensberger, Cole Bisco, Coben Carper, who
Connor
I really
Saylor.
like from Bowling Springs. Connor Saylor has had a good year as well. So, and then Toth, of course, too. So I think the Southwest in general is going to struggle. But if anyone gets on, it'll probably be Toth, not a guy from the WPIAL. That's just my professional opinion.
On the other side, in AAA, Briar Priest of Hempfield was your champion. He defeats Colton Stone King 7-5. Lonzie Vilma of Connellsville in third. Nate Stone of Franklin Regional in fourth place. And Stone King avenges a loss to Vilma 7-4 in the semis.
That was a hell of a match, and boy, it was not as good as the finals between Briar Priest and Colton Stone King. I was pumped up for that match, man. I mean, there's not many matches that I kind of, as it's happening, you're kind of twitching, you're kind of wrestling the match a little bit, unless it's a teammate or something. It never really happens. But boy, during that match, I'm like, oh my gosh, what's gonna, it was crazy. It was a lot of fun scrambles. It was just a lot of high octane performance from both wrestlers. They're both great kids too. That's the other thing. Both Briar and Colton are just stand-up guys, come from good families, and just you can tell that they're, they got good heads on their shoulders. Both Pitt and George Mason got good ones there. Briar Priest, look, he's a returning state champion. Let's not forget that. All the talk is Tyler Casack, Pearson Manville. Let's not forget about Briar Priest, right? And he showed it by coming through a really tough WPIAL, beating Colton Stone King, who had that big win against Lonzie Vielma. Look, the WPIAL they're doing really well. And I would say this, Nate Stone had a great tournament too. Had a good win over Robbie Allison from Trinity, loses to Priest, but then bounces back, beats a tough Cole Doppelhauer to get into that third and fourth place match to qualify for the state tournament. He's a guy who at one time had some losses. He lost to Bechtold. He had some other matches where I'm like, it's not the Stone that we expected, but he really turned it on.
Yeah, and you look at the state tournament here at 138 pounds. You mentioned Tyler Casack. He's at the top. Briar Priest on the bottom half. So he and Dominic Findora of Downingtown West on the bottom. Pearson Manville is sitting up top with Casack. So good for Priest that he gets both those guys sitting at the top. Findora, obviously, a very tough out as well on the bottom half with him. But overall, nice spot for Priest.
Oh, if I'm Priest, I'm real happy, because I'm away from a guy you lost to, Pearson Manville, and Tyler Casack, an undefeated returning state champion. So yeah, I'm pretty psyched about that. I'll take my chances against Dom Findora, who I like. I think Dom Findora, I mean, we have him number 2 in the state. I really like Dom Findora, but I would rather wrestle him than Pearson Manville or Tyler Casack, right? So I do expect Priest to come out from that bottom half, but Findora is going to have something to say about that. Outside of those two, though, I don't see anyone else as a threat. Unfortunately, for guys like Colton Stone King and Lonzie Vielma, they have 2 really tough draws to start. Stone King has Kelly Kakos from Perkiomen Valley, who is a returning state medalist. I think Stone King wins that, but if he does, he gets Tyler Casack. That's obviously a really tough task. Lonzie Vielma gets Ali Alicia from Manheim Township, also a really tough matchup for him. So, but if he should win that, he's likely going to get Pearson Manville. So those 2 are going to have to do some winning on the back end, and I think they will. It's just a matter of where they fall in the bracket, right? And to avoid each other and to avoid some of the other studs that may potentially fall down. But I definitely think the WPIAL can get 3 on the podium here, no doubt.
Yeah, really, this bracket with Priest included, it's very top heavy, right? You got this because you got so many studs in this weight class. But I agree with you. I think depending on how that bracket falls, Stone King and Vilma should definitely be able to make the awards stand. 145 pounds in AA for the WPIAL. Not as strong of a weight as they had in the last few that we've been talking about, but still good with Chase Vermelia, Jefferson Morgan finishing in 4th place, Sean Szymanski of Burrell in 6th.
Yeah, and the question was the WPIAL going to get any guys through here, and who are they going to be? And for Melly, he's had a good season, but I mean, look at some of the results that he's had. He's had some ups and downs for sure, and he was tested here. Had Reese Wood in early on 5-4, really took it to Tim Treader from North Star, which wasn't surprising. loses to Watson, who just pins just about everybody he wrestles here. And, to punch through and get out from the consolation to the third and fourth place match to get a match with Noah Teeter, who's really tough. I'm impressed with him, right? Szymanski, same thing.
And he avenges
What's that, Greg?
And he avenges the loss to Szymanski, an 8-2 win for Formelli in the consolations over Szymanski.
Yeah, right. And I was just going to say how those two, have seen a lot of each other, and then you throw in Lankos as well, who Szymanski beat in that blood round. It's again, a lot of guys have seen each other over and over and over again. But yeah, and even Chase Brandenburg. I mean, he was in the mix as well. Loses 11-7 to Szymanski. So, unfortunately, you just had some guys that were in that 5 to 8 range. And, unfortunately, some of them got through, others did not. So, Formelli's he's going to have his hands full at this state tournament, no doubt.
Yeah, tough draw for Formelli and Szymanski. Formelli feeds into Connor Hare if he wins his first one, and Szymanski feeds into Eric Alderfer if he wins his first.
Yeah, not a good draw for either one of those guys. And like I said, 45 is just a stacked bracket to begin with. You guys, Connor Hare obviously is one of the top guys in the state. But then you have Alderfer, you have Caden Wagner, you have Carter Gill, you have Ty Watson, you have Evan Mag, Jake Guilfoyle from Bishop McDevitt. Yeah, it's going to be hard. Let me just put it that way. It's going to be hard for the Southwest in general. Noah Teeter's going to have a hard tournament. Ty Watson, I think, is going to be, tested often and early. So, yeah, it's going to be hard for one of these guys to come through. I don't see it happening.
AAA on the other side, we had one of the most exciting finals here at 145. Finn Solomon, Ty Waters, the third matchup between these two guys. And I could watch this match probably 10 times over, Jeff. Just so much fun watching these two. It was a 5-4 win for Finn Solomon. He defeats Ty Waters in the third go-round. Lucas Capusta of Hempfield in third. Drake Burford of Highlands in fourth. He had the huge win in the blood round over Levi Donnell of Butler. Catches him on his back and pins him and gets that final spot.
Yeah, I mean, Drake Burford's a guy I don't want to draw in a bracket because he's so dangerous. I was talking to Highlands coach Logan Downs, and he has a lot of experience at the state tournament, and I said that to him. I said, man, I would not want to draw Burford because he's dangerous, right? And he knew that he had to get by Levi Donnell in order to get through because you knew Finn and Waters they were on a different level, right? And I would even say Capusta too. I think he's really separated himself. I'll echo what you said, Greg. I could watch that Finn Solomon Ty Watson match 100 times and I'd never get bored. That was a hell of a match. I told them both. I was like, I didn't think anyone would top 38, but you guys did. And Finn, one thing I noticed about Finn was, and I hadn't seen him since probably January, maybe early January, and he looked stronger. He looked leaner. He looked his physique was just. I'm thinking, okay, like Finn looks really good. It just looked chiseled kind of. And I think that showed. I think it really showed in that match against Waters because he was able to muscle his way through some positions and just get into a better position because of his strength. Ty Waters, though, my God, he's fun. He's so much fun to watch. I love watching him wrestle. He's a bad matchup for just about anybody he wrestles. And Lucas Capusta, let's not forget about him. He's been nothing but steady and solid from that third position behind those two guys. Another guy who I don't want to draw is Lucas Capusta because, man, he brings it. And this will be his first trip to the state tournament, so I'm excited to see how he does.
Finn Solomon gets the top seed as a returning state champion, and he's on the top half. And really, a lot of the studs are on the bottom half. You got Jude Swisher on the bottom. Lucas Capusta, tough draw. If he wins his first, he gets Swisher in the round of 16. Ty Waters will have likely Andrew Harmon of Bethlehem Catholic in the potential quarter. So WPIAL, is on the bottom half. There's a lot of talent down here.
Yeah, there is, and Finn Solomon definitely is the one who benefited the most, obviously being a returning state champ and on the top half because I think he's got a pretty easy road. I think his toughest match could come against Riley Bauer in the quarterfinals, but I don't see Chance Babb beating him. I don't see Michael Traynor beating him or keeping it close with him, to be honest. Finn Solomon is really, I think, a good bit a distance away from some of those guys. On the bottom half, though, like you said, there's just landmines everywhere. I like Keaton Fisher from Conestoga Valley. I think he wins his first one and has a good match with Andrew Harmon, a guy who from Becco who was a returning state medalist. Shane Kibler from Abington has a win over trainer Ty Waters. I think that's a great draw for him. I'd like Ty Waters to make it out to the semifinals, where he's likely to see Jude Swisher. Jude's been really solid. He's been nothing short of great this season. Has a win over Finn Solomon already. Now, that was early in the season, and I think Finn's a different wrestler, but I expect a Finn Solomon and Jude Swisher finals, and that should be a really good one. But Ty Waters is going to have something to say about that. I really do believe Ty Waters is going to come to wrestle and scrap. I don't think he's going to – his last trip there was 2 years ago at 106 as a freshman. I don't think he's going to wrestle like he did then.
Yeah, Swisher's going to have to earn it, right? I mean, you're going to have to beat Kapusta, you're going to have to beat Ty Waters, and you're going to have to beat Finn Solomon. So, if you're out of your 4 wins to get a state title, 3 of them are going to have to be against the WPIAL, in my opinion. 215 pounds is our next weight class, and Dayton Pitzer of Mount Pleasant. The story here, just as kind of expected. I think I said this after his Powerade final, Jeff. I said, I don't know if he's going to get through 3 periods again, and I don't think he has. I think he's probably pinned everyone since then. Didn't even get out of the first period here in the Southwest region. For the WPIAL, though, Vitaly Daniels of Bentworth has a great tournament, finishes in second. Anthony Govern of Southmoreland, great tournament as well. He finishes in 4th place, and the guy who finished in 3rd, he did beat in the quarterfinals. So, WPIAL 3 strong showings here at 215.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. I don't think Pitzer's going to go a full 6-minute full match here the rest of the way. But to not even get out of the first period in the regional tournament, that's saying something. I mean, Dayton Pitzer, pound for pound, is one of the best wrestlers in the state, no doubt about it. So, Pitt, Keith Gavin's like, cannot wait to get you in the room. So, Pitzer, we knew what he was going to do. Vitaly Daniels, on the other hand, there were some questions on how he was going to bounce back. Govern had that big win in Ultimate Tiebreaker against Bearjar, which is an awesome last name, by the way. Bearjar is pretty badass. But overall, I mean, Vitaly Daniels and Govern, they wrestled really good and did what they were supposed to get through and finish top 4 in the region.
You look at the state tournament, again, does anyone get 6 minutes with Dayton Pitzer? I think is the question. Not about necessarily competing. But how do Vitaly Daniels and Anthony Govern do here?
Yeah, so, I mean, to your first point, I don't think anybody's going to go 6 minutes with Pitzer. I don't see that happening by anybody, especially not on the top half. I think he pins his way into the finals here. On the bottom half, Vitaly Daniels has a tough match with Jonah Hauser from Lackawanna Trail. I said Lackawanna Trail impressed me before. Jonah Hauser was one of those wrestlers that did. Him and Vitaly Daniels should be a really good match. The winner there will likely see Brad Morrison. West Perry only has 1 loss on the season. I like Brad Morrison. We got to see him at the Surge. I got to see him quite a few times this year. So that's a tough match for him. And I wouldn't look past Cale Black either. Cale Black from Eisenhower is also there in a pretty deep Northwest region. And I like Hayden Linkerhoff on the bottom from Corey area. I don't know against, Govern. I think he has a good first-round matchup with Frame, but Woodruff is pretty darn tough, so that's going to be a tough one. I just don't know where – I think Vitaly Daniels has a shot, right? Especially if he beats Hauser in the first round. I think he has a shot to make it through to the top 8, but it's not – I mean, we know where Pitzer's at, but the rest of the field, it's pretty stacked as well.
215 pounds in AAA. It was a stacked weight class here thanks to everybody trying to get away from maxed out. Brian Finnerty of Thomas Jefferson does it again, defeats Corey Borio and defeats Cole Waitman on his way to a WPIAL title. Both 1-0 decisions. What impressed me most about him, Jeff, was his riding abilities, being able to ride both Borio and Waitman, especially with Waitman slamming Finnerty's head off the mat time after time, bloody nose after bloody nose. But boy, Finnerty gets it done and wins the WPIAL title. Corey Borio of Latrobe comes back for 3rd. Liam Volklaus of Seneca Valley for 4th.
I mean, look at Finnerty's decisions. 1-0 over Buggy. That was a tight match. 1-0 over Borio, and then 1-0 over Cole Waitman. He scored a total of 3 points in 3 matches, and he won a WPIAL title. I mean, I don't find me another bracket where that's happened. Maybe it has. I'll ask Ken Stats Wonderly, but I can't imagine winning 3 matches with a total of 3 points all in the WPIAL tournament, all to win a title. So, and look, Cole Waitman was a 2-time WPIAL champion, and he beat him for the second week in a row. Now, Cole Waitman is not the same Cole Waitman that we're used to, right? He's was banged up. He's still banged up, not necessarily in wrestling shape quite yet, but clearly he's right there. And so is Corey Borio from Latrobe. He's right there with guys like Finnerty. And one thing I noticed with Finnerty is I was curious to see what his size difference was going to look like. And he looks significantly smaller than some of these guys, Borio included. And it was his riding ability that ended up winning him those matches. So is that going to catch up to him in Hershey? I don't know. But I do know that the WPIAL is pretty stacked here. LVK from Seneca Valley, I like him. He had a big win over Eli Makel from Waynesburg, 7-0. I thought he looked great in that match. And then just kind of made a stupid mistake against Waitman and got thrown and pinned there. Thought he'd wrestle Borio a little bit better, but he beat Josh Harasnik from Chartiers Valley in a really good major decision. So if Liam Volklaus can get back to what we expect him to, just like Cole Waitman, I think he'll be a problem in Hershey.
Yeah, and Eli Makel was very close to knocking off Corey Borio as well. A debatable takedown on the edge of the mat in that third period was close to going Makel's way to end up winning that one. But you look at this, I mean, it was a deep weight here, 215 pounds. But also I think it's deep at the state tournament as well. So where does the WPIAL guys kind of fit in here?
Well, I'll tell you what, Finnerty got a great draw. I think he sees Lucas Doyle in that first round. Lucas Doyle has 2 losses to Borio this year. I think Finnerty wins that one. I think it's going to be close, and I think it's going to be tight because Doyle is a big 215-pounder. But I think Finnerty finds a way. Winner of Anson Wagner, Travis Armstrong, that's a winnable match for him as well. Armstrong is kind of the dark horse here. I think Armstrong is a guy who's physically very much capable of winning that match. I just don't know if I think he struggles from bottom, which I think Finnerty's going to exploit. But I really do think that Finnerty's going to be undersized there. So that could not bode well for him. But then you have Chase Levy on that bottom half too, who's also undersized. He was a 189-pounder, but there's a guy, Sonny Sasso, there, so he's now at 215. Finnerty is certainly undersized for the weight. So we could have 2 189-pounders in the 215 semis potentially. On the top half, Cole Waitman has a good first-round matchup, and I think he gets out to quarterfinals where he'll likely see Carl DiGiorgio from Central Bucks West, who's been really solid. Only loss to Pavlechko from State College, who they're both on the same side. So I think a lot of those guys are going to beat each other up, and Waitman could find himself in a good position potentially in the wrestlebacks.
Do you see that either of those guys could, Waitman or Borio, can knock off a Pavlechko or DiGiorgio?
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I definitely think either one of them is capable of doing it. Pavlechko is, he was hurt last year. He's only a sophomore. Has his big tournament was the Escape the Rock, but the question is, can you duplicate that, right? Can you wrestle like you did, on 2 days for 3 days in Hershey? I don't know. I can tell you this, his road to being a state champion, he's number 1 ranked guy in the state right now. The road to a state champion for him is going to be very, very difficult. Borio right out of the gate, then likely a Sam Rodriguez in the quarterfinals, then a DiGiorgio or a Waitman in the semifinals, and then, a Chase Levy, a Brian Finnerty in the finals. That's a hard road there. So I definitely think Waitman and Borio are going to compete. I think they're both going to compete for a medal. It's just a matter of how high they can get.
Next weight class, 120 pounds, and Chris Vargo of Bentworth with the big win for the title. He defeats Cohen Bainey of Bald Eagle area 4-0. Bainey had defeated Cooper Hornack of Burrell 6-2 in the semis to get there. Hornack ends up coming back for 3rd place. Logan Ritchie of Quaker Valley also on the stand with 5th place finish.
Yeah, so I mean, this was one of the biggest matches that I wanted to see was the rematch here, and it's not a rematch; it's a series now between Bainey and Vargo. Baney looked great against Cooper Hornack, winning 6-2 over a tough Hornack. I thought, and he's poised, he's ready for another shot at Vargo to win. And Vargo just, he found a way. He had a close win with Rostal 3-0, which I thought was a good match for him. And I think Baney and Vargo wrestle 5 times, 10 times, it's going to go 50-50, right? One's going to win 5, the other one's going to win 5. So, I expect we probably will see that again in Hershey sometime, to be honest with you. But Vargo looked really good. Hornack comes back for 3rd. He beats Rostal. I was impressed with him because it's easy to get, put all your energy, all your eggs in one basket to say, hey, I'm beating Baney. And then when you don't do that, it's hard to come back. And he refocused, had a nice win over Richie 2-1, and then Rostal. Richie also had a great tournament as well, beating Donaldson. Overall, the WPIAL had a good showing here at 120 pounds.
Where do you see it finishing in the state, Jeff? You got Jaden Pepe of Wyoming area at the top. Vargo is down at the bottom with Adam Schweitzer of Notre Dame GP. Cooper Hornack's in that same opening quadrant, as is Logan Ritchie with Pepe.
Yeah, so, Hornack, should he beat Sean O'Toole, is going to draw undefeated state champion. So you got a state finalist and a state champion in the quarterfinals. That's a really tough one. Cohen Baney's got a tough match with Eric Howe on that top half, but I think Pepe is the guy here. The bottom half, on the other hand, winning that region was huge because I think Vargo is the guy. I really do. I think Vargo is the guy on the bottom half. I think Schweitzer, we know what Schweitzer's capable of. He beat Vinny Kilkeary. He's just been so steady and solid for Notre Dame Green Pond. But Chris Vargo, man, he has an edge to him. He has a toughness to him that I don't see very often, but he has it. And I think he ends up getting to the finals. I really do. I believe that he makes it to the state finals and sees a match with Jaden Pepe.
AAA on the other side, Vinny Kilkeary of Latrobe. He wins the title 16-5 over Troy Homan of Penn Trafford. Kilkeary just took it to another level in the final. Jacob Haupt of Cannon McMillan in the 3rd place. Mason Kernan of Bethel Park finishing in 4th.
Yeah, so Vinny, he let it loose, right? And I got to talk to him afterwards, and he was like, I didn't want to have a 3-1, 4-2 match. I wanted to get out there and mix it up. And it looked like the Vinny Kilkeary from 2 years ago when he was a freshman, coming in as like a 3'9", 106 pounder and knocking off guys like Jacob Van D and Tyler Kasak, and winning just a phenomenal bracket. So if Vinny Kilkeary wrestles like he did this past weekend, he's winning a state title. The question is he going to be able to open it up in Hershey? He beat Troy Homan, and he was in some 50-50 positions with him, and just he won those. He won all of them. Pinned Kernan, who's tough. Major Jacob Layton again. So he's coming on strong. I think I said that with Kessler, how guys are just feeling it. Vinny Kilkeary's feeling it. But Jacob Haupt, he was in the match with Troy Homan. A few things that I think he needed to correct, and especially from neutral, that would have changed the game. But Troy Homan, let's not forget, he was 4th in the state last year. So he's ready to do battle in the state tournament. But man, 120, Greg, is out of control. That's what I can say. It's out of control in AAA.
Yeah, I've just look at all the names. It's deep. It goes to at least 12 deep in this weight class.
Yeah, 12 deep is a conservative estimate, because Mason Leapart's at the top. He's going to get the winner of Charlie Bunting and Troy Homan. 2 guys that are state medalists last year, 2 guys that were second in the region where they had guys that they had been close with before. So I really look at that match as one of the best first-round matches, no doubt. So if Homan should win that, I think he's right there with Leapart. I really do. Leapart is a guy who he's so good at a few things, and he's so good from top. I think that's going to cause Homan some issues. But if he can get on his offense, if he's able to get a takedown, I think he wins that match. And Jacob Haupt, on the other hand, he's got a rematch with Asher Cunningham, a guy he beat in the Surge. So Haupt had a phenomenal Surge tournament. Go back and look at the brackets. PA Power Wrestling, we do a phenomenal job of hosting a tournament. Greg, don't you think so?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree.
I'm just trying to throw some commercials out there. Hey, sign up for the Surge. Halpt had a win over Asher Cunningham at the Surge, loses to him at the Powerade tournament, and they draw in the first round, senior versus freshman. Halp's got nothing to lose, man. He's wrestling. He's already committed to Kent State. He's got nothing to lose in this match. And Asher Cunningham, he's had some close matches in the past few weeks, so I'm excited to see that one there. But on the bottom half, you look at where Mason Kieran is.
1 second, Jeff. Not to interrupt you. Do you think
No,
the
go
winner
ahead,
of Halp Cunningham gets to the semis?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, very good shot. I think for sure the winner there has I would lean towards that winner and make it to the semifinals. Carmen Cortez from Westchester Henderson is good. Don't get me wrong, he's good, but I think Asher Cunningham has a win over McIntyre. Cunningham has just been he's been really solid, and Halpt is just he's a renegade, man. He's out there just slinging it, Sean Logue is also not an easy out should he win and wrestle Carmen Cortez. So I would say, yeah, the winner from that Cunningham Halp has a very good shot to make it to the semifinals.
Go and look at the bottom half now. It's just another, again, stud after stud here with Vinny Kilkeary and Kernan at the bottom.
Yeah, and I think Kilkeary is just I think he makes it. I think he makes it to the finals. I really do. I don't see anyone stopping him. And I think his toughest match could potentially be Mason Leapart. Like I said, a clash of styles. Vinny Kilkeary, very much not he's an unconventional wrestler. Mason Leapart, a very conventional wrestler. So that to me is a good matchup there. But on the bottom half, you have guys like Mason Ziegler, who I've been impressed with this year, Camden Williams, who has a win over Vinny Kilkeary. Now, this is not the Camden Williams that we saw last year. He's certainly not in the same state of mind or shape to get there. But hey, we know the ability is there. Cale McIntyre, on the other hand, he's just turned it on. He's a new wrestler, so I certainly don't want to be opposing him. But Vinny Kilkeary, he looks so good at the regional tournament. I can't see anyone beating him.
Now on to 132 pounds. WPIAL gets 4 wrestlers out of the 6 going on here. Joey Senapal of Burgestown finishing in second place. Drops a 9-4 decision to Callum Bowman of Chestnut Ridge in that final. Kyle McCullum of Best Center also lost to Bowman 8-2 in the semis, and he comes back for third. Peter Chacon of Best Center finishing in fourth, of Montour finishing in fourth place, and Nico Farah of Burrell puts together a good tournament. After that whippy old loss in that opening round where he was upset, he's been on fire of late, not only getting into the mix for the top to advance to the Southwest region, but now advances to Hershey, finishing in 6th place.
Probably the best thing that happened to him was that early round loss, to be honest with you, because look at what's happened since then. He's wrestled lights out. Finishing 6th at this weight, that's pretty impressive, because Callum Bowman, boy, he's really peaked. He's really wrestled well as of late. And, there were some questions about him certainly last year after being a state runner-up and then not doing as well last year. This year, some questions. He had some close matches here, but he really took it to Joey Senapal, who also recorded his 100th career win here. Senapal has been nothing but solid for Burgettstown. Tough schedule with them. So Joey's going to have to rebound to refocus to earn a state medal here in Hershey. But Kyle McCullum, he's been there before. He's come away with a medal before. Look at that 3rd and 4th place match, 3-1 in Southern victory. But he beat Farah as well, 3-1. So these guys are all neck and neck. I like these guys, all kind of knocking their heads together and seeing who comes out on top. But, looking at the state bracket, Greg, it ain't going to be easy. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's very top heavy too. You got Owen Reinzel, Brookville at the top, Brandon Chiletzos of Notre Dame GP, Connor Heckman of Midwest, and then we talked about Callum Bowman, who just had a great Southwest regional. So you got 4 studs as far as region champs go. Where do Senapal and McCullum fit into the mix from there?
Yeah, well, I'll start with Peter Chacon from Montour. He's got a good first-round matchup. I think he can win that one. But then Owen Reinsel, Lehigh commit, 2-time state place winner, 4th last year. He's going to have his hands full there. And I think Reinsel's probably going to end up getting out to the semifinals. And I like Max Stein from Faith Christian Academy, Barvitsky from Southern Columbia, and Bowman. They're very top heavy. So I would rather be on that bottom half. I think Kyle McCullum has a good chance to come out to the semifinals. Connor Heckman has wrestled really good, but he's in a tough Northeast region where they kind of all beat each other up a little bit. He took some losses, and he's definitely beatable, right, for Kyle McCullum. You look at Joey Senapal, he's probably got one of the worst draws of all of them because he beats Wyatt Laser from Commodore Perry, but then, drawing Kletzos right in the quarterfinals, that's a tall ask, so he would have been a little bit better if he would have got fourth or third, in the Southwest region, because then you may not see him into the semifinals. But look, that's why they wrestle the matches. I think that he's going to do just fine. He's going to compete. Him and McCollum, I'm excited to see where they both end up.
Yeah, and I feel pretty confident both guys will come away with a medal just for how well they've been wrestling all season long. 132 in AAA, Mac Church of Waynesburg, very dominant in his performance. Tech fall in the quarters and two major decisions to win the WPIAL title, leaving no doubt about it. Chad Ozias of Connellsville, he finishes in second place. Blake Reener of Trinity in third, and Eli Carr of Hempfield in fourth place. I think when you look at this bracket, Jeff, this was a deep weight here at 132 pounds going into it, and Mac Church obviously was the favorite to win it, but 2, 3, and 4 were up for debate. Vince Citrano of Plum was a guy that we thought, hey, he's going to make it to the state tournament. Just where is he going to finish? Second, maybe third. He finishes in sixth place. Kai Von Grace was a guy we were excited about. He's really peaking at the right time. Beats Blake Reener of Trinity, gets into the semifinals. That was that one bugaboo match where you're like, okay, he might lose the Reener and just miss out. Wins that one, and he ends up finishing in fifth place. Just a wild finish here at 132.
32 was just – it was weird. Outside of Mac Church, things were just weird. Chad Ozias and Vinny Citrano wrestle. Citrano was literally one takedown a few seconds away from making it to the state tournament in the WPIAL finals. I think that loss cut so deep. I think he really just put all his thoughts and his energy and his emotions into that match, because afterwards he just didn't have it left. He didn't have anything in him, right? Loses to Reiner in that match, and then loses to Grace in the 5th and 6th place match, which, how are you going to get up to wrestle in that match? It pains me to not see him make it, because, all the things that he's been through and the doubt that he's had. And I think this is going to be better for him in the end. I think, depending on where he goes to college, I think this is going to help propel him to the next level. But, we can't discount the fact that Mac Church is scoring points, and he's scoring lots of points, right? Because let's not forget, last year he lost to Dylan Coy in the WPIAL tournament. This year he's leaving no doubt. A flip has been switched, and he is now wrestling just completely open and free, which is great. This was weird though. Eli Carr comes through, places fourth. Blake Reener places third. This was a weird weight class. And there were some other guys who, like, Nathan Monapart, Bodie Marlowe, they were in the mix as well. It was a weird weight class, but I think Mac Church is a story here. No one's touching him.
Yeah, and it's great to see for Mac Church. We talked about this, I think, after the PIAA tournament, right? Even though he finished in second, Bozakis is obviously on another level, and Church kept the close with him. But Church was putting up points. We noticed it from the very beginning of the season. He's definitely wrestling a lot different than he did his freshman and sophomore campaigns, where we talked about he's a stud. He's going to be close in every match, but if he could open up, put his offense in, he's going to win a lot of He's going to potentially win it's 4 state titles, but, came up short his freshman year, and sophomore year, obviously didn't put up a lot of points, but this year he's, like you said, leaving no doubt about it. But you look at this state bracket, Jeff, Braden Bauer sitting right there at the top with Mac Church. That might be his toughest test going into a potential state final, but, a lot of great wrestlers here at 132.
Yeah, so Mac's sitting at the top, and Bauer was second in the state coming into the regional weekend. He loses to Luke Simcox. Bauer wrestled Church at Powerade, and Church really dismantled him. Colin Guy from Quakertown is a freshman that is just a stud. But there's also a stud freshman with the same name, spelled differently, Colin Rath from Becca, who's 21. His only loss is Brandon Kletos. So, and that was his first varsity match. So Rath, I think, is the guy on that top half that is dangerous. You don't wrestle for Bethlehem Catholic and have a 21 record and not be dangerous, right? And Mac Church has a history with guys from Bethlehem Catholic. Him and Tyler Kasak have been back and forth. So, and I think I look at that quarterfinal match between Guy and Rath as a really good matchup to see who can test Mac Church. But I really think Mac Church is the guy here. I don't see anyone beating him. Eli Carr's got a tough draw with Garrett Gear from Garden Spot. Chad Ozias has a good draw with Julian Everett from Pittston. I think he can win that match and then potentially get a Matt Repost there. I like Repost to come out to the semifinals with Luke Simcox. Blake Riener would feed right into Luke Simcox. I think Simcox is the guy there. So outside of Church, I think it's going to be tough for the WPIAL.
Next weight class, 113 pounds for the WPIAL. Jack Cazales of Quaker Valley finishes in third place. James Walzer of Montour, the surprise finisher, I think, here for the WPIAL, finishing in sixth place. Colin Bartley, your WPIAL champion, just outside in seventh. Jack Cazales was the guy we talked about 2 weeks ago. He ends up injury defaulting after losing a tough match in the semifinals where he just didn't look right, didn't look himself. Able to bounce back and finish in third place and have a solid finish.
Yeah, I mean, it was great to see because, we knew he was struggling. We knew that there were some issues there with Jack in the WPIAL tournament, but he really turned it on, right? He beat Brock Holderbaum twice in the Southwest Regional. His only loss was to Phi, who is a solid wrestler, but he clearly is close. And I would say the biggest surprise had to be Walzer from Montour. That to me was like, you finished sixth in the WPIAL. Not a bad finish considering the weight class, but you beat some pretty big, you beat some guys that made me look like, my gosh, like, is this serious? Like you're getting into that, you're going into Hershey. And he does, he makes it out. So good for him. And, a guy like Colin Bartley just misses out. And, it's going to be tough for the WPIAL, no doubt. But Jack Cazales, I think if he can get refocused again, I think he's going to do just fine.
Boy, 113 in AA is also it's a star-studded bracket here.
Yeah, star-studded, and there's some fresh faces here. Gage Botero from Faith Christian's a guy who I really like. But then there's some familiar names like Hunter Robeson, Landon Bainey, Brandon Wenzel, Gavin Bradley. Gavin Bradley and Brandon Wenzel they split two matches. Bradley, obviously a returning state finalist to Pepe, 3-time state medalist. Wenzel was a state champion 2 years ago, third last year. So these guys are just, they're stacked. Weston Pisarczyk from Brockway. That first round matchup with Cazales is a huge one. That's one of my favorite matches there in the first round at 113 pounds. So that's a tough draw for him. And, you look at Walliser, he's got a favorable draw with Struble from Mifflinburg, but a really bad draw with Botero. And we didn't even mention guys like Devin Jackson, who's also there as well. So the WPIAL in general, outside of Cazales, it's going to be really, really hard, but Cazales is even going to have a really hard time, I think.
Yeah, he's going to definitely struggle. It's a deep weight class here, 113 in AA. AAA side, Tyler Chappell of Seneca Valley. He wins the WPIAL title with a 1-0 decision over Darius McMillan of Peters Township. Brandon Damai of Cannon McMillan in third. Brady Joling of Chartiers Valley in fourth.
We talked about how open this weight class was, and I took away from this weekend was not that Tyler Chappell wrestled poorly against McMillan. It's just that McMillan wrestled really well. I was really impressed with how he wrestled against Tyler Chappell. Tyler Chappell, though, he's gonna have a tough challenge in Hershey. And when we look at the bracket in a second, but Brandon Damai had a good tournament. Brady Joling had a phenomenal tournament, right? I thought he had that big win over Petrovich in sudden victory. Is only 2-0 against Chappell, and then wins to get into the third and fourth place match with a big win, 4-0 over Sam Snyder. So I thought Joling had a great tournament, and I thought McMillan had a good tournament. The question for me is, can Chappell get over the hump? That's a real question.
Yeah, that's something where, one thing with Chap when he had those close matches, and this is something you look at with when you're wrestling basically club teammates. It could be tough sometimes. He wrestles Joling, wrestles McMillan a lot with Quest, and so those guys are very familiar with one another. But one thing with Tyler that we've talked about Dylan Chapel at length, right? About how he would be so dominant all season long, then come postseason time, he just kind of shut it down a little bit. I hope it's not happening the same thing with Tyler. And you're noticing a little bit of it, I think, with Tyler, especially in that WPIAL tournament. So hopefully he can open it up here in the state and not shut it down, here in Hershey, because I think he's, when you look at the state bracket, he's got it's a deep weight class again. I mean, there's several big names, but he's in a good spot, I think, to win the first or maybe even second match to get to the semifinals.
Oh, I clearly think he's definitely in the quarterfinals. I don't see Clausen or Davis coming close to him. I think Tony Burke and Cole Campbell is going to be a really good first round matchup, and I think the winner there is going to certainly push Tyler, but I expect Tyler to be in the semifinals, and I think that top quadrant, I'd rather not be up there with Caden Williams, Nick Allison, and Tahir Parkins. There's no way I want to be a part of that. So, Caden Williams is going to have to get through some, he's going to have a tough quarterfinal match. It doesn't matter who it is. It's going to be a tough match. Caden Williams, took a loss to Nico Tassi of Warwick in the sections, rebounds, wins a title at the South Central Regional. So, Tyler he beat Caden Williams last year, right? He just lost to him at the quote wrong time, right? He lost to him in the state semifinals, and then Williams ends up beating Asdio in the state finals. So overall, though, the WPIAL, when we look at first round matchups, Darius McMillan, Cole Smith, that's a great matchup to me. I think both those wrestlers are going to be offensive. I think both those wrestlers are going to, put it all out there. Nico Tassi from Warwick is one of the most improved wrestlers in the state of Pennsylvania, going against Brandon Damai from Canamac, who's been wrestling really good as of late. If Tassi's able to break him, what I mean by that is if he's able to get a few takedowns and ride out Damai, I don't see it being. I think Tassi's he's got a motor for days, and he does little things right. And then let's throw in Zach Jackaruso on the bottom half. That now, should McMillan win that, he's going to get Jackaruso. I think that's an interesting matchup for him. Jackaruso doesn't score a ton of points, but he knows how to win matches. There's no doubt about that. He beat Anthony Knox, one of the best wrestlers in the nation. He has wins over a lot of these guys in this bracket, Tyler Chappell included. So, there's just landmines galore here. Brady Joling has a good first-round matchup, but he feeds right into Williams. So, that's the luck of the draw, as they say.
Yeah, that very top half is just with Williams, Allison, and Parkins all up there in front. It's definitely crazy for those all to be right there, but a good spot for Tyler Chappell for sure. 126 pounds is our next weight class, and for the WPIAL, finishing with 4 through 8 is how they all finished out. But they get 3 across. Timmy Crafrelli of Southside, he finishes in 4th place. How about Gavin Suika of Burgestown, bouncing back 2 weeks off, getting in 5th place, and Dylan Bruce of Elizabeth Forward in 6th.
Like, we can confirm that Gavin Suika has like a broken foot, right? I mean,
he's got a fracture in his foot. Yep.
How are you wrestling with a fracture in your foot? It's your foot. You use that in wrestling a whole heck of a lot. I'm not sure how he does it, but man, that's freaking impressive. But I mean, shout out to him for doing what he's doing. Gets to the quarterfinals, loses to Carfelli. That's we know that was going to be a tough match, and then Husek beats him, which we knew was going to be a good one. But Suika comes through and beats Stepp, and then loses to Burkett. But still, I'm excited to see how it all pans out for him, and because I think fractured foot and all, he's going to do just fine. But overall, you got to be impressed with the WPIAL here with guys like Carfelli coming out through Suika and Dylan Bruce. And then Brandon Cruel was right there. He was pretty close, lost to Trent Hoover in a tight match, and then lost to Bruce 4-3. Bruce, I didn't know if he was going to make it, because honestly, I saw on the first day, he comes out and, injury defaults to Burkett, and I'm thinking, well, he's probably not going to wrestle back. But then he ends up doing it and then punching through the state tournament. It's just a matter of how healthy he's going to be. That's a real question.
Yeah, that's for how about Suika? With his fractured foot. Bruce, you mentioned, Bruce ended up injury defaulting to Suika for fifth and sixth. So how are they going to be? Timmy Cafrelli had a great tournament. He ended up pushing, top seed Trevor Husick. He drops a 10-8 overtime decision. So that's how close Cafrelli was to being in the finals of the regional tournament. So solid showing for him. You look at the state. You have Scott Johnson of Muncie sitting at the top. How many WPIAL medals can we get any in this weight class?
Well, yeah, the Whippeals. I mean, when you have two guys on bummed legs and bummed everything else, it's going to be really tough. I mean, Suika's going to have his hands full with Granaham from Benton in the first round matchup, and if he wins that, he gets Chase Haunts, who's been wrestling lights out. He's a freshman. I really like him a lot. So, that's really tough. Dylan Bruce, he draws Eli Bounds from Bowling Springs, another guy who I really, really like. So should he win that, he gets Scott Johnson, number one guy in the state. So, yeah, it's going to be really tough. Let's just put it that way. Carfelli, I like his first round matchup. Noah Doy from Camp Hill, that's a winnable match. Mark Palmer is good, but he's certainly not the best on the bottom half, I don't think. And so he's got a decent enough draw, but yeah, I don't see if Suika can somehow get in the top 8. That is a absolute miracle. Someone should make a movie about that. But it's going to be hard for him to do.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. Just how tough he is. We've talked a lot about him during throughout our shows, but how tough he is to get to that point, get to the state tournament on one leg is just definitely impressive. AAA on the other side, Ethan Lieben of Hempfield defeats Maddox Shaw of Thomas Jefferson in the finals 4-0 to win the WPIAL title. Xander Fatoris had a great tournament, finishing in third place. He tested Shaw, lost 3-2 in the semifinals, but he beat Anthony Ferraro twice, both in the quarterfinals as well as the third place match. Anthony Ferraro, Pine Rushland, finishing in fourth. But the other big story, in addition to Lieben winning the WPIAL title, WPIAL champion Dylan Coy of North Allegheny from a year ago finishes in sixth place, loses to Lieben, loses to Ferraro, and loses to Andrew Binney in the fifth and sixth place match. Senior, something you hate seeing in their last year, but Coy definitely a disappointing finish. Lieben, an impressive showing.
Yeah, I mean, you can't help but feel pretty awful for a guy like Dylan Coy and also for Vinny Citrano, right? I mean, guys that just they dedicated their lives to wrestling and they pour everything into it. I saw Dylan after that match that, to get into the third and fourth place match. And it's just like, God, you just feel awful for him. But that's wrestling, right? There's winners and losers. If you would have told me Ethan Lieben was going to win a WPIAL title, I would have said, you might want to, have you been drinking or smoking? Because, not to say that he wasn't capable of, I'm not saying that to bash him. All I'm saying is look at where he was on that bottom half. I mean, Benny was right there with him, right? Dylan Coy was right there. But then he has to beat the guy who he lost to an ultimate tiebreaker the week prior. So, for Maddox Shaw, he's got to find some more offense. He's got to wrestle a little bit better offensively in order to make some noise on the state level like he did at Powerade. Fatoris, this was the best I've seen Xander Fatoris. He had not looked great in the start of the season. And I think you and I talked about that early in the year because we thought Simone might have been able to beat him in the wrestle off. Fatoris really turned it on. Looked great against Ferraro, very, very close to Shaw, but then comes back and beats Ferraro again after beating Benny for like the umpteenth time. So, 126 in the WPIAL, 1 through 6, these guys are all top 20 in the state. Like, I don't care what you say. All of these guys are top 20 in the state, but only 4 of them got to go. So, unfortunately, that's the way it is. At least we have 4, not 3 like next year.
Jeff, a couple of things that really highlight out of what you just mentioned there. Ethan Lieben winning a WPIAL title. We talked about Eli Carr a little bit earlier in the show. How about the job by Vince DiAugustine, right? To coach up those guys to have those impressive performances. Dylan Coy, on the other end, loses his head coach, Sonny Abe. He and his top assistant resigned. Dan Heckert, Jesse Rogers, just doing their best just to keep the team, afloat for the rest of the season, and doing everything they possibly can. But parents, getting on top of coaches and giving the grief sometimes that the coaches get, you got to give the credit to look what a good coach can do. Look what a good coach can do to a guy like Ethan Lee and Eli Carr to get them to that next level. And what happens when a guy like Dylan Coy loses his coach a month before the most important tournament of his season, and he ends up not going to the state tournament?
Well, I mean, and look at North Allegheny. They're not sending anybody, right? And that's
Yeah.
That's crazy, right? I mean, North Allegheny is a perennial program, and it's not to say they don't have individuals that are capable of. It's not like they have a bad team this year, and I think that's just people forget the environments and the practice rooms and the drama that's goes on outside. I mean, that whole thing is just it hurts. It hurts folks. It distracts folks. It really derails some things. I wish you would give some credit to Jeff Shaw, Greg. I mean, all Vince DeAugustine, there's more than just Vince. Vince is a great guy, but I mean, look at the staff he has. Jeff Shaw, same name as I do, good person like me. So, but no, you're absolutely right. You look at the differences between them. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because Vince certainly knows how to get guys ready. I mean, look, he's been doing this a long time. He was really good when he was a wrestler. He's a hell of a coach. So it's not a surprise that he gets the most out of his guys when it matters most. But yeah, it's going to be fun to see in the state tournament because you look at it, Greg, and Maddox Shaw, should he win that first match, he's going to draw Carl Schindeldecker, who was 1 point away from beating Mac Church in the state finals last year. Carl Schindeldecker has been really good this year. Only loss is to an out-of-state wrestler, Maddox Shaw. I think he struggled this past weekend. Carl Schindeldecker could get him at a good time here. Dalton Perry knocks off Jacob Van D, the returning state champion, so that sends the bracket into a tizzy. Van D and Frenzy wrestle in that first round. Fatoris, he gets a match with Zach Luckenball, a match that he already won. He won that match previously. He beat him at the state tournament, the dual team tournament. But he wins. He gets Dalton Perry. So 26 is a weird weight. Anthony Ferraro, I think, has a decent matchup in the first round against Mac from Hempfield, but then he has undefeated Cannon Hershey, who also, I mean, talk about a quality name. Your name is Cannon Hershey. You're wrestling in the state tournament in Hershey. I mean, I feel like that has to give you an edge, right?
Yeah, you would have to think. It might just a little bit. But no, not really. But then you look at Jake Van D and Dante Frenzy. What a great opening matchup that's going to be. And then you look at Ethan Lieben. Do you feel like he's in the semifinals with where he's at in the bracket?
Yeah. I mean, if he wrestles like he did this past weekend, I definitely think he's. I mean, his draw is a phenomenal draw because I think he wins that first matchup, and I think he's better. I think he's in with Brady Collins and Josh Hillard. I think that's a good first round matchup, and I think Ethan Lieben is clearly a guy who can get that win. I'm not saying he walks into the semifinals because I don't think that's the case. I think Brady Collins and Josh Hillard are really two quality wrestlers. I got to see both of them quite a few times this year, and Lieben, though, he's on a hot streak right now. Momentum's a big thing. Hillard's got a week off since the South Central Regional, so Lieben's he's feeling really good at the right time, so I'd expect him to do well.
The next weight class, 106 pounds. Parker Senepal of Burgestown with the South Regional Championship. And he was the only WPIAL was not as strong at 106. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago with Senepal's dominant performance getting to that point. But he is the only WPIAL wrestler going on. But what a guy to advance on with a 7-1 win in the final to get there. Great tournament for Parker Senepal once again.
Yeah, it was a great tournament for him. And, man, he's been nonstop this year. I just feel like he's been so consistent. We're not surprised at all the fact that he's in the position where he's at. The question for me was were they going to be able to get anybody else through? And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And we kind of assumed that, right? I think we talked about that last week, that it was going to be really difficult for the WPIAL to get anybody outside of Senepal through. And just looking at the state bracket, Senepal is on a good side. He's away from state champ Louis Gill and Aiden Smith from Notre Dame GP, but he's on the same side as a guy named Aaron Seidel from Northern Lebanon, who's pretty damn good himself. So yeah, I think Parker Senapal has got a really good chance to make the finals here.
Do you think he got how do you like his chances against a Louis Gill?
Louis Gill is really good. I don't know if you know that or not, but he won the PIAA tournament. He knows how to win matches. He's really good at match management. He's very savvy when it comes to things like that. I think we're going to see a PIAA finals rematch because Smith and Gill wrestled in the PIAA finals this past year, and I think that's what's going to happen in the quarterfinals. I think the winner there makes it to the finals. Easton Mall is tough. Him and Hubert should have a good first round matchup, but I don't see Colton Wade having much, I don't see him giving him any issues. So I think Louis Gill's going to get to the finals. And the question is, can Senapal join him there? Aaron Seidel from Northern Lebanon is really good. He won a tough Southeast region, and but Parker Senapal has been really consistent, and he's got a little bit, he's got an age difference. He's wrestling really well, and he's older, so I think he has a good chance to get to the finals, and I just don't see anyone beating Louis Gill. I think that was your original question. I think Parker could keep it close, but I can't see anyone beating Louis Gill at 106 pounds.
Always appreciate your long-winded answer to that. Thank you, Jeff. 106 on AAA side. Luke Willishow of Latrobe had an impressive performance of his own. Defeats Nico Finella of Indiana 7-3 for the title. Finella, who is trailing Ty Kapusta 2-1 in the semis, pins him late in the third, gets to the final. Tyler Kapusta comes back for third. And how about Tanner Mazinko of Cannon McMillan? He had a big 6-5 win over Connor Smith of Seneca Valley in the quarterfinals, and that helps propel him to fourth place.
I mean, that was huge for Mazenko to get that win over Smith. That was a match that he wanted to get back, and by virtue of that win, he has a chance to wrestle in Hershey because then he beats Allison, who we knew he was capable of beating. Kapusta gets a fall over him. Kapusta beats Connor Smith in a very close 6-3 match in sudden victory. But the thing I took away from Saturday here was Luke Willishow is just peaking at the right time. I mean, Willishow has just been kind of lights out since the state team tournament, and we saw that here on display when he beat Nico Finella. And going into the state tournament, he's got to feel pretty good. Yeah, he's in a really deep weight class, but he's got something, man. He's got something about Luke Willishow. It's probably a lot to do with his older brother Gabe, but he's not a guy I want to wrestle, not at all. So he's a matchup problem for anybody who he's going to see here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And he gets a nice draw as well because both Nathan Desmond and Aaron Cement both on the top half of the bracket.
Yeah, Cement is a guy who I really like, and we got to see him at the PIAA tournament this year, and I was really impressed with him. He's on the top half with Nathan Desmond, Ty Kapusta, Liam Flanagan, which is a pretty stacked top half, no doubt. So the bottom half, outside of Luke Suriani from Abington Heights, Luke Willishow is the best guy there. So Suriani is older, he's a junior, and he looks like he could be 21. He's pretty big. I think he's got a full beard, and he's going to be hard to get past. But Willishow's, I'd love to see a Willishow. What I want to see selfishly is I want to see Nathan Desmond, Eden Cement in the semifinals, and then I want to see Luke Willishow and Nathan Desmond rematch from the state tournament, team tournament in the finals, because I just think that has so much potential to go sideways. But yeah, when you look at the other draws, Tyler Kapusta, I think he has a good draw with Liam Flanagan. Flanagan's wrestling really well, but so is Kapusta. I think that's a toss-up match there. I think both of them are they're both sophomores. They both had good years last year, but neither one of them was able to punch through and really make some noise. Finella's got a tough match with senior Luke Heilman from Altoona, who hasn't wrestled since he was a freshman, loses in Northwest Regional Finals. So that's a tough ask for a freshman to go against a senior there. It's definitely not an easy draw there. Mazenko has a hard match with Dean Hauser as well. So you look at those guys and you say if they can win, That's great, but they're going to have to knock off some big name guys in order to get to the podium.
172 pounds, Rune Lawrence of Fraser. He wins a Southwest Regional title after a tech fall and a fall from the quarters and semis. He has a tough 2-1 win over Suds Dubler of Glendale for the championship. Mason Dimert of Quaker Valley, your other WPI wrestler to advance on, finishing in 6th place.
Let me ask you this, Greg. Were you surprised by the fact Rune Lawrence only won by a point in this match, considering he was on the Dayton-Pitzer plan and just pinning everybody?
Yeah, he was on a roll for sure. I mean, Suds Dubler is obviously a quality wrestler and a guy who, can definitely, challenge you. I was hearing at AAA over the weekend that Rune is battling a little bit of injury, so he may not be quite 100%. And if that's the case, when you get a quality guy like Dubler, then I'm not quite surprised. But yeah, I thought it'd be a little bit more. I thought it'd still be a bigger score than what it was.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I was a little surprised by that. I heard some folks that were there that there wasn't a ton of action by either wrestler in that match. So if in fact Rune is dealing with an injury, then that certainly makes sense considering how dominant he's been. Mason Dimert had a really good tournament to come through in a pretty deep weight class. I thought Daniel Moore doesn't get through from Chestnut Ridge. That to me is that was, I think those were toss-up matches for Dimert, and he wins 9-1 over Daniel Moore. So clearly he was feeling pretty good. But you look at the state bracket, and my God, Rune Lawrence is going to draw Nolan Lear in the quarterfinals.
Yeah,
they were 1-2 in the state for 90% of the season until Nolan Lear lost 2 weeks in a row to Garrett Garcia. So Rune pinned him at the Powerade tournament in a minute, but Rune was 100% at the Powerade tournament. If he ain't 100%, Nolan Lear may smell blood in the water here. So that's going to be a hell of a match potentially. And you have guys like Garrett Tedimer also in the bottom half, top half, Brock Covell from Titusville as well. But I think the winner of Rune Lawrence and Nolan Lear goes to the state finals, to be honest.
Do you see Garrett Garcia or Jake Jones presenting a challenge to Rune's back-to-back titles?
Yeah, I mean, if he's winning close matches with Suds Dubler, I certainly think he's susceptible to losing to one of these guys. Look, Garrett Garcia is wrestling like he just doesn't care. I mean, he beat Nolan Lear, he pinned him from standing neutral 2 weeks ago. He beat him in a really just a bloodbath match last weekend. Garrett Garcia is certainly in the mix to win a state title. And Jake Jones has been nothing but solid for Saucon Valley. The problem with Jacob Jones is, he's much like Rune Lawrence. He loves upper body. He's a big Greco freestyle guy. And that goes one of two ways. Really good for you or really bad for you. So I think Garrett Garcia, Jake Jones, should that be a semifinal, would be a really good match. But Suds Dubler, you can't count him out either as well. So, no, Rune's going to have a tough road, no doubt. I mean, just like he did last year with Malachi Duval. He's going to have some hard matches in order to repeat as state champion, especially if you're not 100%.
172 in AAA, Rocco Welsh of Waynesburg wrestles Matthew Furman once again, and he defeats him by major decision, 19-7 in the final. Logan Hoffman of Bell Vernon for third, Connor Jacobs of Armstrong in fourth.
Yeah, and 172 was certainly not the deepest weight classes, but I think a lot of people kind of are forgetting about Matt Furman and kind of sleeping on him a little bit. Furman's been really consistent. Of his 7 losses, I think 4 to Rocco Welsh.
Yeah,
he's been really solid, and also they went to Ironman where he got 2 losses there. So, thinking about it, that's not a whole heck of a lot of losses. He won the King of the Mountain tournament, has some win over some guys in the state bracket. He loses by major to Rocco Welsh, but has a nice win over Hoffman, 7-4. Hoffman recorded his 100th career victory over the weekend there. So Hoffman bounces back for third, beats Connor Jacobs. Connor Jacobs flipped the script on Shaler from Mars. He had lost to him earlier in the year and comes back to beat him by major. So that was a really good performance by him. I was impressed with Armstrong this weekend. Highlands and Armstrong both impressed me. The 2 teams that we don't see a whole heck of a lot of. But Matt Furman is a guy that I think a lot of people forget about. Let's not forget also the fact that Rocco Welsh won his first WPIAL title. That's bonkers.
Shocking.
Shocking. He won his first WPIAL title as a junior, and he said that's just the way Pennsylvania wrestling is. It's so deep, and he's absolutely right.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He's had just studs. I mean, Curtis Phipps of Norwin, AHR from Seneca Valley. Yeah, it's hard to compete against the best guys in the state in your own backyard for year after year. So, is this the year Rocco gets his first WPIAL title? He gets his first state title?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's. So I don't think anyone's going to stop him. No, I think Rocco Welsh is wrestling like a man. He's just so honed in. Him and Mac Church both. I mean, it's weird how I don't know if they're how like siblings and twins kind of they bounce off of each other, and they kind of like, hey, if somebody's doing bad, I do bad. These guys are both doing really well at the same time together, and I don't think that's by coincidence. Rocco Welsh is on an easy side of the top half of the bracket. I really don't see Waylon Whaler or Cole Bartram or Luke Thomas, Kevin Oliveria giving him any issues at all. Tucker Hogan and Dom DiAugustino from Interborough are the two guys on the bottom half I'm looking at. Matt Furman's got a great first-round match with Kellen Blasi. I think he wins that, and I think he's going to give Tucker Hogan all he can handle. But Hogan, his only loss on the year is to Nolan Lear. So Dom DiAugustino, he's a solid wrestler. We saw him at the Surge. He was on our True Power card, beat Jake Jones there. So, yeah, I'm excited for this one. But 72, I think, is Rocco Welsh's. Someone's gonna have to really wrestle well to take that from him. And looking at some of the other WPIAL guys, Connor Jacobs has Cole Bartram. If he can wrestle a full 6 minutes with Cole Bartram, he has a chance to beat him. But Bartram is really good. If he goes up early, he's not gonna be able to come back from him.
Do you see a guy like Furman? I feel strongly about Furman getting on the medal stand, but what about Logan Hoffman as well?
Yeah, Logan Hoffman is the weird one to me because I think he wins his first round matchup with Barbush, and I think honestly he pushes DiAugustino. The question for me is where he falls in the wrestleback, because you look at that quadrant above him. Mark McGonigal is really a solid wrestler from Clearfield. Caleb Mazzonli from Abington Heights is also pretty solid. So if he runs into a guy like Waylon Whaler or Luke Thomas, he's going to have his hands full. So Hoffman, I think he's a fringe medalist. I think he can be in the blood round depending on how the bracket shakes out.
Final weight class, Jeff, 152 pounds for the WPIAL and AA. Tyler Barish of Best Center finishing in third. Justin Ritchie of Quaker Valley finishes in fourth place. And Isaiah Pisano of Hopewell in fifth, and Connor Johnson of Mount Pleasant in sixth. WPIAL goes 3 through 7 in this weight class, but once again advancing 4.
Yeah, I mean, for them to get 4 here, I think we expected 4. I can't quite remember what we predicted, but I think we expected those 4 to get through. Tyler Barish and Justin Ritchie split matches. They obviously meet again here this weekend with Barish winning in overtime. So I think those guys could wrestle a whole bunch of times, and they could be split down the middle. I don't know if I was expecting Connor Johnson from Mount Pleasant to pull through. And you look at where he came from. He loses his first match to Austin Blackner from Conemaugh Township, 5-2. Wrestles all the way back into the Constellation semifinals. Loses there and then loses to Pisano, but I still think that's an impressive performance for him to get through. Pisano was close with Ritchie, and he beat Blackner 3-1 in sudden victory. So just a lot of WPIAL and WPIAL crime here, and Boughton, I think, was obviously the guy who did not benefit from that because he loses after beating Kovac. He loses to Pisano and finishes in 7th place here. But just a lot of, obviously we know Jackson Arrington and Jack Moyer are 2 of the top guys in the weight, but still a really good performance from some of our guys from the WPIAL.
Do you see any of them being able to get on the award stand at Hershey?
Yeah, so 52 is a pretty deep weight class outside of the WPIAL. Obviously you have Jackson Arrington, you have Cooper Price from Wyoming area, whose only loss was last weekend. Michael Dugan, Justice Hockenberry Flock from Folk from West Perry, who's really good. Kane Kettering, who's really good. Andrew Christie, who's really good. Devin Deem, who's a returning state medalist. I think Barish has a shot. I think Barish wins his first match, and I think him and Devin Deem would be a really good match. I think Barish has the best chance But I also like Richie's draw. I think he can beat Ramsey, and I think he's there with Kane Kettering. So if you win there and you get to the quarterfinals, obviously, anything's possible. I don't know who's going to make it to the semifinals out of that quadrant there. Is it Kane Kettering? Is it Justice Hockenberry Folk? Is it Richie? Is it Ramsey? I don't really know, but if Richie gets hot, I think he can make it.
AAA on the other side, 152 pounds. We knew who the top four were going to be. It was just a matter of how they were going to finish. And Dylan Evans of Chartiers Valley gets revenge on Kellen Laffey of Pine Richland, defeats him 5-4 in the finals. Nico Taddy of West Allegheny finishes in third. Jack Pletcher of Latrobe in fourth.
Yeah, and you notice Kellen Laffey had a pretty significant wraparound for his shoulder. And I'm wondering how much that's affected him, because he never really got on his offense. He beat Jack Pletcher 1-0. That was it. He was able to ride him out. Loses to Dylan Evans. Never really was able to get on his offense. Dylan Evans looked really great. Beat Nico Taddy 5-2. That was a really good match for him. He wanted that match with Kellen Laffey. He really wanted that match back, and he did everything he had to win that match, and he picked the right time to win it. We knew the top four here were going to be all neck and neck, and they didn't disappoint. Nico Taddy beats Pletcher for the second time this season, beats him 1-0. So when you have Jack Pletcher finishing fourth and making his first trip to the state tournament, it's a loaded region, and really the state bracket is just going to be nuts.
And it's really disappointing. There's not a lot of there's always an opportunity where a region wrestler could face each other in the round of 16.
It's rare, but yes.
I think there's one or two chances for the WPIAL, and unfortunately it happens here at 152. Jack Pletcher wins his first. He's going to draw Dylan Evans right out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, no comment on that, but that sucks, right? Pletcher and Evans first round. I mean, that sucks for both of them. You don't want to have to wrestle a guy from your region in the first round of the state tournament. So yeah, that's obviously tough, but I think Dylan Evans has I think he wins to get to the semifinals, either Frontino or Daly. Now him and Dominic Frontino, they were really close last year, and I think that could be close again this year. But Evans is just, look at what he did at Super 32. Look what he did in Fargo. The kid he wrestles to win, man. He wrestles hard. He's feeling really good too. I think health-wise, he's feeling real good. I look at some of the other guys, and obviously Pletcher, if he loses to Evans, he's gonna have a long way to wrestle back to get to the medal stand. And you look at some of the other guys, Kellen Laffey. I think he has a great first round matchup with Gallagher. I think he wins that one, and I think he can beat Dobbins should Dobbins come out from there. So I think Laffey actually has a pretty good draw. I actually really like his draw. Nico Taddy, not so much. He's got a tough Griffin Gonzalez, and then Dagan Condomiti from Northampton, who's been lights out. I like Dagan Condomiti to get to the finals here. I just think he's wrestling too good to not win there. And if Evans is on the other side, that's going to be a hell of a match. I hope that happens, because those are two young wrestlers that are both juniors, both two of the top recruits in the state. I'm looking forward to seeing that one.
I know all year we've been talking a lot about Laffey and Evans being 1-2 in the state. We may see them back-to-back weeks. Do you think Laffey can knock off Condomiti, or do you think with that shoulder injury that you saw, he's not going to be able to do it?
Well, clearly I think he's capable of doing it. Condomiti himself has had some injuries this year, and I think it's possible. I just go off of the recency bias, and that is Kellen Laffey lost had a tough Southwest Regional, and Dagan Condomiti has dominated. He got bonus points in, I think, every single match of the postseason thus far. That to me shows that ain't nobody gonna stop you. And the way, remember how he wrestled Wyatt Henson? He almost beat Wyatt Henson last year in the state tournament. So I don't know. I feel good about him.
As far as the WPIAL goes, do you feel like there could be 4 medals here at this weight class?
Well, unfortunately, I don't, because I think one of them will knock each other out, because where the brackets hold, I think only 3 would be able to. I can't say for certain, but I think only 3 would really be able to do it, just based on how the bracket is stacked. But yeah, I could see Nico Taddy getting through. I could see Kellen Laffey getting through, and obviously Dylan Evans. And Jack Pletcher, should he win some close matches, yeah, absolutely, he can get through. So I don't know if all 4 will be able to make it, but I definitely think 3 of the 4 is not out of the question.
As far as team-wise goes, Waynesburg wins the team race for the Southwest region. Also, congratulations to Burgestown. They finished in second place in the AA Southwest region on the team side. And also, congrats to Scott Stoner. He was the WPIAL Coach of the Year. And also for Max Stout, outstanding wrestler. Not too much surprise. He dominated the field. But, Jeff, we did it in under 2 hours. Just barely, but under 2 hours.
Hour and 57 minutes, man. I kept on looking at the weights because I'm like, it's normally it's like, all right, you're at 52, you got a few more weights to go, but this one I'm like, how many do we have to do? Who do we not talk about yet? So it was a little bit hard to keep track of, but we did it in under 2 hours. I'm proud of you. We've got a whole lot on store for you, PA Power Wrestling. We've just updated state rankings in AAA. We're gonna get AA out for you. We did a phenomenal show last night, 2 hours and 15 minutes last night, just on AAA. Tom Hausnick, myself, Dustin Hawkinsmith, and then Mitch Rupert and I are going to break down all of AA tomorrow. So we just, if you want to talk wrestling, you've got about 6 hours already locked and loaded. You're going to have some more as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
So I guess one other question that I have on a personal front, Jeff, but also I'm sure a lot of people are curious to know as well. Last year, you didn't get a chance to go to the state tournament, obviously with your son being born. So you did a lot of shows right after the rounds, right? Now last year was different because all AA was on one day, all AAA was on another day. Are you planning some shows in between next week, or what do you think?
So, yeah, so it depends. We would like to, because one, it's easier to just turn on a camera and start talking as opposed to sitting down and writing and recapping, typing, because before you know it, it's the next round. So we would like to do just kind of round recaps. It's just a matter of logistics, how we're going to do it. But that was a lot of fun last year. I did it from home with a 1 week old, 2 week old. I forget how old he was. He was an infant, so he slept a lot, but also other things a lot. So, yeah, we would like to do it, but it just depends on logistics.
Well, make sure everybody stays with PA Power throughout the entire state tournament. We're going to have all the updates for you and as much as you need as far as results, interviews, and all the like. And, I'll be there as well, so I'll just be waiting for my invitation if you need me for a few.
You're always invited, Greg. You're always invited, okay? You don't need – you have an open invitation. Invitation.
How about that? Everybody hear that? I think we got to make sure we have that out there.
It's on there. You got it. It's on there. It's on there.
Well, Jeff, I guess we'll see you at Hershey, my friend, and everyone else. Make sure you stay with PA Power throughout the week as we get you prepped and ready to go. And the most exciting time is here, the state tournament coming up here Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from the Giant Center. For Jeff Upson, I'm Greg Warnock. Thanks for watching WarUp on the WPIAL.